Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for clicking. It means a lot to you guys keep clicking. If you guys keep clicking, I'll keep making. And today we have a gross one with Ozzy. And when I say gross, I mean politically, I mean visually, I mean emotionally. It's a scarring video today. So if you're definitely not right in the stomach, it's probably not your your video today. I mean, this was tough to research. So I guess I'll just come out and say it. Ozzy made an OnlyFans basically a few months ago. He's also now come out as bi, which to me is more of an attention-seeking thing, as it was pretty obvious based off of his pictures on Twitter that he was at least questioning his sexuality, and that this was more of like a media ploy to try and get attention for his OnlyFans content instead of actually just coming out and being genuine. But that's just my view on it. Also, similar to Shan, Eliza, and many more from the Survivor community, he has terrible politics, spewing identity politics day after day without understanding what he's saying or who he's really talking about. The policies that he suggests are so radical and so ridiculous that they're actually laughable. So let's get into it. But first, like, share, subscribe, notification bell, do all that good stuff because it's free and it really helps the channel. On top of that, if you guys want to see another addition to this series of the Blank Has Lost Their Mind, where I look into someone who has just absolutely lost their mind after being on the show, stop what you're doing and go down and hit that like button, because if we can get to 200 likes, then I'll do high, because to me, I think highs is the next worst one. I mean, when you look at some of the stuff that he's claiming, you know, about how straight people just have to be gay, that is some terrible stuff. So I'm gonna look into it, and if that's it, let's get into it. So I actually think it's best to start with the least crazy thing about Ozzy right now, which is his OnlyFans, which means yes. Ozzy has an OnlyFans. It's gross. It's really gross. I guess it's all that I really need to say on this. I think the more outrageous stuff comes from his political tweets. It's just some crazy stuff that he's claiming and saying. So the first tweet that we have is, quote, "A theory: the more Republican you are, the worse you are at dancing." I would say that this is pretty dumb. Obviously, I can tell he's joking. I don't know. I would hope, unless he has some sort of scientific theories to back this claim up. But in all seriousness, I feel like something like this, I really don't need to argue against. It really just makes itself look dumb. I think the thing that needs to be pointed out here is just that it's a good warm-up for how much Ozzy truly hates people who disagree with him. Usually when people disagree with you, you dislike their politics, but he seems to really dislike people themselves for their personality if they disagree with his politics, which is a dangerous ideology in my personal opinion, because I think that if you hate people, if they disagree with you, then you're going to hate a lot of people, and therefore you're going to be a hateful person, and that's not really the way to go about politics, in my personal opinion. So although this isn't some sort of profound pointing out of Ozzy's flawed, political ideals, it is a good warm-up just to see how hostile Ozzy really is with people who don't really agree with him and who are on the opposite aisle as him. In the next tweet, Ozzy says, "Remember when y'all didn't want evolution taught in school? Lol, that was cool." So he's obviously being sarcastic. And on top of that, what he's doing is a very effective tactic in debate called strawmanning, where you make a caricature of somebody else's argument and then you beat that argument. For an example here, the people who disagree with him aren't arguing against evolution at all. In fact, anyone with really any common sense probably isn't going to make a gigantic argument, against Darwin and his studies, at least nowadays. But what he's doing is he's lumping in anybody who has Republican ideals or even who is a slight bit conservative and saying that they are anti-science in some way. Again, it's straw manning. You're taking a very exaggeratedly bad version of somebody's argument in politics, and then you're beating that argument. You're not beating the argument, you're beating an alternative version of an argument, the argument that you would like it to be, which is just not the case, sadly, for Ozzy. In this next tweet, he says, "All these anti-vax, my body, my choice people out here, yup, Chad and Becky, we do drugs and get abortions and worship the devil. Fuck off." So, I mean, it's tough to start somewhere with this one. So first of all, I do like how he did insinuate that anyone who could possibly disagree with him has to be named Chad or Becky, aka obviously meaning that they have to be a white person who's of middle age. I think it's quite stereotypical, and it's something that honestly I have no problem with stereotypes, as usually they're used in humor, but obviously to Ozzy, I'm sure he'd go absolutely triggered mode if someone stereotyped his race. So I think it's funny that he's able to do this, but other people are not. On top of that, he says we do drugs and get abortions and worship the devil, and yet he wants to be taken seriously. I mean, obviously, you can do whatever you want, but a big consequence of free speech is you looking like an absolute dumbass. I mean, when you can't talk freely, you do spare yourself looking like an absolute idiot, which is what Ozzy seems to have fallen into. I mean, there really isn't an argument here because, again, just like last time, his arguments are so stupid that I'm literally not able to argue against them. I mean, like, where is the point here? He says, my body, my choice, people, you know, your Chads and Beckys, I worship the devil and get abortions and do drugs. There's no argument here. It's only claiming crazy stuff and then stereotyping his opponents. His next tweet says, hashtag pee outside. Stop wasting the water. And I think someone needs to teach Ozzy about how erosion works. I think someone needs to take away Ozzy's First Amendment. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Haha, it's a joke. You're supposed to laugh. Don't cancel me. Okay, so I guess what Ozzy's saying here is that you're wasting water flushing the toilet. So does Ozzy have this same theory with pooping? Does Ozzy have this same theory with throwing up? Where is the line? Because if anything, I can make the argument that my feces is more valuable for the environment since it can be decomposed easier than my pee, which is just going to erode certain ecosystems. So obviously I'm taking a joke seriously just to show that if you were to take his argument seriously, all you get is you looking even dumber. When you read Ozzy, you get dumber every single time. And it's honestly, it shows just how flawed his arguments are when you keep reading them and you keep getting dumber and dumber and dumber. The next tweet says, oh yeah, and break the fuck out of the patriarchy. So I'm not really going to address the tweet because he doesn't really address anything. He doesn't make an argument. He doesn't produce facts at all. So it's kind of hard for me to address the tweet. And I'm therefore just going to address the patriarchy or the idea of such. My biggest thing here is in this context, Ozzy is hating on something that is giving him at least some form of cash. The internet that he's using to post these videos is made by a male. The camera that he's using to post these videos is made by a male. The women that he's using and men were all made by males. Like, obviously, this sounds silly, right? Like, who cares if all of these great advancements were made by men? It doesn't matter because we all use them in solidarity. But when you now start to want to break down the patriarchy, but then the patriarchy gives you all of the things that you should be grateful for that make your life easier, do you really want the patriarchy to go down? Or do you want the parts of the patriarchy that you don't like or that you find, quote unquote, unfair to go down? Because it seems like more of a childish thing. Like, I want my cake, but I also want to eat it too. That's just how I personally see it. But what do you think? Is Ozzy absolutely nuts, or were you just not listening this entire video? Let me know down in the comments. Again, none of this happens without you guys. I'm just a weird guy speaking a weird microphone. So as always, thank you. And if that's what, talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.